Chase Bank let more than 100 complete strangers gain authorized user access to customers' credit cards.
Chase Bank allowed dozens of people, dozens, to be added as authorized users to her credit card without her knowledge or approval.
This woman suddenly received a huge stack of mail containing not one or two, but 70 Chase Bank credit cards issued to 70 complete strangers, all on her credit card account.
Imagine if you opened your mailbox and found it overflowing with dozens of letters containing credit cards for random people attached to your account without your approval. You know, the immediate wave of panic and sense of betrayal would be crushing. You'd be thinking, how could Chase let this happen under their watch? This terrifying incident is exactly what happened to two separate people with their Chase credit cards. On top of that, I'll show you why Chase won't ever give us the full details, how this scam could easily target millions of people, and the best way to catch it before a bunch of fake cards end up at your doorstep. Also, don't forget to download my free credit card pre-approval master list. Everybody loves this list because you can easily find over 50 cards that will pre-approve you without a hard credit pull, and some of them even show your starting limit with just a soft pull too. So hit the link below to check it out for yourself. Now, when you add someone as an authorized user on your credit card, you're basically handing them a lot of power over your finances. They can make purchases, get their own card, and even impact your credit score, all without being responsible for paying a dime. And if they misuse it, you could end up with maxed out credit limits, an absolutely tanked credit score, and legal battles that you have to clean up. So a woman in Hayward, California opened her mailbox one day to discover 70 Chase credit cards, each issued to complete strangers, but all connected to her personal account. The sheer confusion must have been overwhelming. Her mind racing, she quickly realized that Chase, the bank she trusted with her finances, had allowed 70 unauthorized users to get into and access her account. The fraud detection systems that were supposed to protect her had completely failed, leaving her wide open to potentially catastrophic financial damage. Now, think about it. How would you feel in her shoes? You know, you'd expect a major red flag to go up immediately, right? How could adding dozens of strangers to one account not set off alarm bells at Chase? When she looked into it, instead of quick action, this customer was met with silence and delay. After reporting the issue, she was left waiting, wondering if she could ever feel secure about her credit card account again. With each passing day, the anxiety grew. Would these strangers start racking up charges? Would her credit score take a huge hit? Would Chase even fix the situation before real damage was done? The woman really felt vulnerable and betrayed and incredibly frustrated. Not only had her financial security been crushed, but the bank she trusted, which was Chase, had failed her. And now, as Chase dragged its feet in responding, she was left to wonder, how could something like this happen in the first place? And why wasn't Chase doing more to make it right? This incident really shows us the risk that even a well-known, respected financial institution can pose if its systems aren't up to the task of protecting its customers. But this was just the first time it happened. And it's really a harsh reality that your financial security is more vulnerable than you might think, especially in today's digital world. That's a big reason why I use Aura Identity Theft Protection. It monitors all 3 credit bureaus and delivers the fastest, really near real-time alerts whenever someone makes an inquiry into your credit files across Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. That way you get instant protection, whether it's a legitimate check or an attempt at an identity theft. And it has bank fraud monitoring, which ensures that you're the first one to know when someone tries to alter your account details or add new names to gain unauthorized access. That means you receive an immediate alert if someone attempts to tamper with your account. When it comes to your future, it has 401k and investment account monitoring, and it keeps your nest egg secure. If any of your registered financial accounts ever show up on the dark web, you'll know about it first. And the feature I use the most is financial transaction monitoring. This tool lets you track every single transaction on your credit cards, bank accounts, and investment accounts all in one place. Imagine having the convenience of seeing your entire financial world at a glance, spotting unusual activity immediately, and catching suspicious charges before they become bigger problems. You can even set the alert to go out when you spend as little as $1, so you get notified about every single transaction. And definitely hit the link below to sign up for a 14-day free trial of Aura and start protecting your money and your credit today. Now moving on, let's say you're on vacation, poolside, soaking up the sun, are exploring new places when you get an email from the post office and it's informed delivery. That's a service that lets you see what mail is headed to your house just electronically. At first, it's routine, probably bills or some promotions. But as you scroll through, you realize something is off. There are 35 cards, all set to arrive at your home, and not a single one has your name on it. The panic hits like a tidal wave. This is exactly what happened to a Chase customer from the Bay Area, California. While she was supposed to be enjoying her vacation, her sense of peace was shattered by the knowledge that 35 strangers had been added to her Chase account without her consent. Imagine the sinking feeling of helplessness as you're miles away from home, realizing that your financial security is suddenly out of your control. By using the post office informed delivery, she caught the problem early, and thankfully that was before those cards could be activated. But even that silver lining didn't erase the anxiety she felt. What it seemed like a vacation hiccup was just the beginning. When she returned home, she discovered it wasn't just Chase. She found fraudulent credit card applications from other banks like Capital One and Citibank waiting in her mail. These were banks she had never dealt with before. The scam wasn't just limited to Chase, it was reaching across multiple financial institutions. What started with just one single unsettling incident had felt like a full-blown identity theft nightmare. With her mailbox absolutely full of fraud, her trust in the banks was broken. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service soon got involved, and they treated this case as a widespread identity fraud scheme. The idea that her personal information had been compromised on such a large scale made her question everything. Like, who had access to her data? How far had the scam even reached? And how long would it take to undo the damage? It's not just about the immediate headache of dealing with unauthorized credit cards. It's the never-ending fear that your information is still out there, ready to be exploited at any moment. She had done everything right though. She caught the scam early, she took quick action, and involved the authorities. But that didn't stop her from feeling exposed and vulnerable long after the mail was sorted and the fraudulent accounts were closed. Now, after both scams, Chase took what seemed like the obvious first step. They closed the unauthorized cards and issued new accounts for the customers. On paper, it might look like they handled the situation, but for the victims, it was far from enough. Imagine being in their shoes, receiving over 100 fraudulent credit cards in total, and then being told, "Don't worry, we've canceled the cards," without any real explanation on how this could have happened in the first place. They must have been so frustrated. Chase, the bank that customers trusted with their financial info, not only allowed this massive breach, but also failed to provide any clarity or solutions for preventing it from happening again. There was no deep dive into what went wrong, no promise that safeguards had been improved, and certainly no apology that felt genuine. Instead, the response felt like a generic fix, like a band-aid on a much bigger problem. And worse yet, the lack of direct communication made it feel like the customers were left to deal with this mess on their own. It wasn't just about closing the cards, it was about regaining trust in a system that was supposed to protect them. And without clear answers, they likely were left thinking, how could they ever feel safe banking with Chase again? At first glance, you might wonder why Chase didn't provide a clear explanation for these massive breaches. After all, if 70 or 35 unauthorized credit cards were added to your account, wouldn't you want to know exactly how it happened and what steps are being taken to prevent it from happening again? Yet Chase remained suspiciously silent, offering only a small acknowledgement that the cards had been closed and accounts reissued. But according to a credit card fraud department employee, this silence is no accident. It's really a calculated move. The employee explained that banks, including Chase, often keep the details of their fraud detection systems under wraps to protect their own interests. Banks are extremely tight-lipped about how their systems work, and there's a reason for that. If they were to disclose too much, it could expose the weaknesses in their defenses, giving scammers an inside look at how to exploit these gaps even further. Now, another bank employee said about this particular situation that there is exactly a 0% chance that any bank would tell her why this slipped through and was allowed to happen, or what is being done to stop it from reoccurring again. Even if they caught the culprit, they wouldn't tell the customer. This lack of communication is stressful for sure. You trust your bank to safeguard your money, your identity and your credit, and when they fail, the least you would expect is an explanation. But Chase, like many banks, chooses to protect itself first, leaving customers to deal with the fallout on their own. It's just a harsh reminder that while your financial security may feel personal to you, it's just another line item for the bank to manage quietly behind the scenes. And when you really think about a bank like Chase, one of the biggest in the world, you'd expect state-of-the-art security. You trust that the systems that they've built are strong enough to catch even the smallest signs of fraud. But these incidents tell a much different story, a story that leaves you wondering if Chase is truly keeping your financial safety in mind. Both cases where Chase customers had dozens of unauthorized users added to their accounts reveal serious cracks in the bank's fraud detection systems. Think about it. In both instances, large numbers of strangers were linked to these customers' accounts, 70 people in one case and 35 in the other, and not a single alarm was raised. No red flags, no alerts, and no proactive actions from Chase. The fraud detection systems that should have immediately flagged this suspicious activity remain silent, letting the damage grow unchecked. And the real shocking part? These two incidents didn't happen a few weeks or months apart. They happened years apart. And yet, despite the time that passed, Chase didn't seem to improve their systems at all. You would think that after a breach of security like that, the bank would have made noticeable upgrades to prevent something like this from happening again. But no, the same gaps that allowed the first breach were still there when the second one occurred, leaving customers exposed to the exact same risks. It makes you wonder, if Chase couldn't catch this, what else might they be missing? How many customers could be vulnerable to similar breaches because the systems that should protect them are simply not doing their job? For Chase customers, this should be a wake-up call. You can't just rely on banks like Chase to have your back, especially when scams like these show that even big institutions can fall short. That's why you have to take matters into your own hands. This might sound basic, but it's one of the most effective ways to catch suspicious activity before it spirals out of control. You need to be actively scanning your accounts for anything out of the ordinary. That's going to include unfamiliar names being added as authorized users. Just don't wait for a monthly statement to come before you check your accounts. And you'll want to check your accounts weekly, if not daily. That's the reality of staying on top of things in a world where fraud can happen in a matter of minutes. Another thing you can do is use USPS Informed Delivery. This free service might just be the key to catching the fraudulent activity before it even reaches your doorstep. By giving you a daily preview of what's arriving in your mailbox, this informed delivery service lets you stay one step ahead of those scammers. And just like in these incidents, wouldn't you rather catch those fraudulent cards before they hit your mailbox and potentially get stolen? Another thing you can do is set up alerts. Many banks, including Chase, offer customizable account activity alerts, and you should really be using them. These alerts can notify you instantly when something suspicious happens. The best thing about these alerts is that they can give you real-time data about what's happening with your account, so you can take action before it's too late. But listen, sometimes it's not scammers and criminals attacking your account. Sometimes it's your own credit card company. Yeah, the enemy within. And Capital One is one of those companies you need to watch out for, because not too long ago, they were sending out tens of thousands of emails and letters to customers with terrible news saying that your credit limit could be decreased. Customers with perfect payment histories were even receiving these letters. So definitely watch the next video to find out how to prevent your credit limit from being decreased in under 60 seconds. Thank you for watching.